Welcome to the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast, presented by the Fantasy Football World Championship, home to the industry's most accurate rankings.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast, brought to you by the FFWC and the Circus Las Vegas Championship. With me tonight is my friend Vegas Matty, straight out of the West Coast here, talking proxy, talking sports betting. Was on the show a couple of months ago. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, it seems like a long time ago, actually. This has been a long season, but I told you beforehand, this is kind of the sequel. It's nice to have another chat later in the season talking about good stuff. Really my first year doing these bigger leagues. And things turned out pretty good, and hopefully we can finish strong these next couple weeks.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how it works, right? It's an absolute grind. I know, you don't do a ton of the high stakes, mid stakes stuff, but you dove in head first this year, and kind of wrestled with the big boys this year. And it sounds like you're having a pretty good year. But we'll get into that in a little bit. We'll talk about a Dominator team that you had and all that. But how's everything going in the sports betting world, the proxy service that you guys run over there? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure. So footballcontest.com is our website. We run the top proxy service in Las Vegas for Vegas football contests. And the Circa Million is going strong. We got 3 weeks to go. A lot of people vying for that $1 million grand prize. We've got some guys in the mix. We just finished up the third quarter a couple weeks ago. My guy, Chris Farley of Farley Bets, he won the quarter. I know the name. Chris Farley, you couldn't believe it, but he went 19-1 in the third quarter to win the $150,000 prize there, and just an unbelievable run. He actually wrapped it up. I think it was on Sunday Night Football. He had a Monday night pick, and he didn't even need to worry about it because he had already locked it up at least at 18-2 at the worst. So and he had finished fifth in the Circa Million before. He won a six figures 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was. So this guy knows what he's doing. We had the Booby Prize winner finished dead last in the quarter. That was $25,000. And then we had another guy that tied for second and won close to $40,000. So over $200,000 our clients won. And we're just we want to get that Circa Million prize. We haven't had a Circa Million winner of the $1 million yet. We've had Survivor winners, and that's another awesome contest that Derek Stevens puts on over at Circa. That pool is worth over $14 million, and there's 50 entries left. So
is that a lot for this time of year, having 50 left?
I was trying to think of what it was around this time last year. Normally, like the Christmas week, and for people who don't know, you have to go 20-0 to win money in this contest. There's a couple bonus weeks involved, one over Thanksgiving where you have to pick a team that plays that in a Thanksgiving game or the Black Friday game, and then turn around and pick another team for that week. And same thing with Christmas. You have to pick one of the two games, I think, that are on Christmas Day, or the big Seahawks Bears game on Thursday Night Football in week 17. So you got to pick one of those teams. And I'm telling you, man, the Christmas week games are really tough. You've got Kansas City going to Pittsburgh. We don't know what Mahomes is going to be, what kind of shape he's going to be in. I know he's going to try to get it out and play this week. And then you've got, I think Baltimore plays Houston, and then the Bears and the Seahawks, which I don't know how many people saved the Seahawks, but I mean, it's still, that's a tough game to pick because it's going to be in Chicago. And I'm from Chicago, so I know how that weather can wreak havoc on opposing teams. As bad as the Bears have played lately, maybe that's the game they break their losing streak, because they do have to play the Lions this week. 50 entries left. The implied value is, I think it's about $280,000 an entry. And what that means is if everyone's going to take a cut right now, chop it up, it would be worth like that much. That's how much the entry is worth. It started out, it's $1,000 an entry. Yeah. You can enter up to 10 times. And we're down to the top 50. Christmas is going to be a bear, though. It's going to be really tough to get through that week. I think that's where you're really going to see between this week and next week. There's some easy games, I think, out there this week with some big spreads if people have them available. But, the thing about Survivor is you can only use one team once and then you're done. So
right.
You got to go on to the next. And Thanksgiving, it seemed like it was very easy this year because all the teams won that were expected to. There weren't any upsets. I think Christmas is going to be really difficult. I think there'll be less than half the field available. Well, probably a lot less than that going into week 18 because you got guys who get really excited about getting through Christmas and they turn around and the next pick they have to make in week 17 it could be really difficult and they might get knocked out. So it's kind of hedging time for a lot of these guys. We've had some of our clients reach out and they talk about selling their entries or whatnot, but you're talking a lot of money on the line this late in the season.
Can the whole group, I have so many questions. Can the whole group decide? It's 50 guys. How do you get a hold of 50 guys? But if they all wanted to,
there's a way. Yeah. I mean, we know all the proxies that are out there and they can get in touch with their clients. And last year, I think it was around this time that they talked about a chop and that poker player said he wasn't going to do it because he was going to take down the whole thing. And then he ended up getting knocked out that week, I think it was, which was pretty funny because he was the one holding it up. But I think it was like down to 11 at that point. So there's definitely a lot more at this point than there were last year. But the upsets, we haven't had an upset in like a month, I would say, that knocked out a ton of people. I think if the Bears could have given the Vikings a little bit more of a fight, I thought they might have had a chance. But I mean, they're just they're the walking wounded right now. They're kind of hurting. There's definitely a lot more in the contest now than there were this time last year. Yeah,
and I heard the Survivor. Correct me if I'm wrong. Real quick before we move on, though, if everyone in the chat, thanks for joining the show. Post Matty in the chat, Matty Matty, for a chance to win a free Maui Madness entry over at the FFWC. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Scott's offering that up. So at the beginning of the year, what I heard from the Survivor was that like through 3 weeks, there were so many upsets through like 3 or 4 weeks. Like, is that true? Like 80% of the field?
I would say like 90% of the field was already out. So
crazy.
I mean, I honestly can't remember the last big upset, to be honest with you, was the Commanders game when they lost at home to the Cowboys. It was just ridiculous, like the way that game ended. I mean, Commanders have had some crazy games where they beat the Bears with the Hail Mary and then came back, tied that. You thought they were going to tie that game. Then the kicker missed the extra point. I think he missed 2 extra points that day, but he was.
I saw a guy.
He ended up going on IR the next year. But
I saw a video of a guy in Vegas who lost a ton of money on that missed extra point.
We had clients who had the Commanders that week too, unfortunately, and that was the last big upset, and that was a few weeks ago. That was probably a month ago, I would say. So since that game, it's been pretty easy coasting. They're just minor upsets here and there. Like the only guy who got knocked out last week took the Niners against the Rams on Thursday Night Football.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's been just like 1 or 2 guys a week since then. So, I mean, there's still got to be a week where a lot of people get knocked out. That Christmas one, I'm telling you, it's going to be that Christmas week where you have to pick one of those 6 teams, I think it is. It's going to be really hard to take one of those guys, hope they win, and then turn around and have to pick another game in week 17. Because, you got so many teams. This is the first time ever that so many teams have clinched divisions, too, and playoff spots. That it's going to make it really tough because players are going to start resting, and you're going to have a team even like the Eagles. I mean, you can laugh. I think they play the Giants in week 18. And, I mean, who knows? Who knows what can happen in some of these games where teams got nothing to play for and they're going to rest all their players. Yeah,
Christmas, we're looking at Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, Texans. Is there a third game, or is that it right
now? Well, the Thursday game is included in that batch. So the Seahawks and the Bears play on Thursday night. So that one needs and I mean, that's like that'll probably be a pick'em game, I'm guessing, as bad as the Bears have played, just because Seattle going to have to play outdoors and
at home,
potential conditions. You got to see what the weather's going to be like day after Christmas, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about. Listen, the Chiefs are due for 3 straight losses, but I mean, Mahomes is like He's like the Paul Pierce of out of the NFL. These injuries, like carry them off the field.
Well, it's always his ankle, isn't it? He looked like
high ankle
back in that on that hit, right? So
he just loves the attention because he stinks this year and last year.
Well, I will say, like the ankle, the only time I've seen the ankle really bother him was in the Super Bowl when they played the Bucks. And I want to say he was like their leading rusher in that game. He still gutted it out. I mean, the guy is a warrior. I can't stand him. Just being a Raiders season ticket holder and having them win the Super Bowl here in Vegas was terrible last year. And I mean, him and Kelsey, like as much as I hate him, like you got to respect him. And he plays with the pain better than any player that I've seen in recent memory. And he's just it's not surprising to see that he's practiced in full the last couple of days, and like he's going to go out there and he's not going to be as mobile. But like I'm telling you, you have to break the guy's ankle. That's the only way he's going to, unless the thing is broken and like they have no option but to take him out. He's gonna. I thought maybe it would be a good excuse for them to kind of rest him down the stretch. And shit, I mean, you could still be competitive with the Texans, and the Steelers is another issue on the road. But like, I mean, they're fighting for that home field though, because I really think they believe it's gonna be them and the Bills, or them and the Ravens, and then you want that home field. So that's how much it means to them. I think.
Yeah, home field is going to matter for them specifically because they stink, right? Like they're like the worst.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be much different than like last year when they. I mean, the thing is that team is. I think their defense is better than it was last year, and their weapons are going to be coming back at the right time. So I mean, it's still a scary team, but the problem is like Mahomes has been playing worse than he has in a long time. But has he? Like he might be just saving this stuff up for the playoffs again this year. So I don't trust the guy. Every time I see him limp off the field, it's like he's going to go back in the game, or the guy he's unbelievable.
Yeah, I will never say anything good. I'm a Western New York Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen.
I'm definitely rooting for the Bills. I'm rooting for the
greatest.
All my Lions guys out there in the Boys in the Hood Fantasy Football League. I'm rooting for the Lions to play the Bills, and we'll see what happens.
Exactly. And listen, everything was going great, and then I just noticed the Jack Eichel jersey in the background. Speaking of the Western New York, I'm like, oh no, you put that up tonight just to rub that in my face?
No, it was here last time, I think, but yeah.
I love it.
Sorry, I don't mean to rub it in, but no, they gotta get screwed on that trade.
Sabres deserve it. They deserve everything they get. So, all right, cool. So yeah, that's exciting stuff. And again, we'll have you on again, of course, next summer to promote it again, to get everybody involved. I think I'm diving in next year, my man. I think I want to get in.
You should go for it, man.
On the betting stuff. Yeah, for sure. Because you got one of the best proxy service around, and I'm out in Vegas at the beginning of the season, anyways, to kind of get out there, and maybe we can hang out and have a beer with Scotty and the boys when we're
absolutely
out there.
I'll be available. Don't worry about it.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll do that. All right, cool. So let's bring up. So you had one FFWC World Championship team this year, correct?
I did. Yeah. After last year, I was in the Las Vegas Fantasy Championships, the first time ever, and I think I finished like 5th or 6th out of the 12 teams. Just missed the playoffs. And after that, I was like, I kind of learned a lot about how everything goes with the format and what you got to do in the draft to succeed. And I just figured I was going to go for it and jump into the bigger league, the World Championship League. And
that's right.
And it worked out pretty good, man. I had a lot of top competitors in there. It's funny because when you look at I think there's little over 200 people in the World Championships now these last 3 weeks.
Yeah. And
my teams, it started 46th going in, and it's like I dropped to like 96th. So I think I'm kind of running on fumes right now, because if you look at my roster, it doesn't look very imposing. Like I do have Alvin Kamara on the bench right now, not expecting him to play. I mean, he was so good for so much of the season. Yep. And then he just kind of, he's kind of hit that wall, and the Saints too. I mean, I cannot stand Derek Carr. I just had a tough feeling. Like it was tough for me to draft Kamara at first, but like the value was there when I took him. I can't remember if I got him like in the 4th round. I want to say something like that.
Probably 4th or 5th.
And then between him and then it's just the Saints. Those are the toughest guys for me to draft. The only Saints guy, which I normally try to promote, is the Saints kicker, because Carr, the way he plays, he's good between the 20s, but once he gets to the red zone, he completely melts down. So I've always promoted getting the Saints kicker or the Raiders kicker anytime you have a chance, just because he just
they
completely
can't score
melts
touchdowns,
down, throws a pick, or can't get into the end zone as much as this team would like them to. But between him and Olave, I took Olave, I think, early in the second. I think I took him in the second round in my other team, and that's another one where I was just like, I had to bite my lip to be like, am I really going to take this guy knowing Carr is going to throw to him? And then sure enough, he served up those hospital balls to him. He gets concussed, and you've got guys like Michael Thomas kind of coming out of the woodwork and basically telling the world that he ended his career and stuff. Which is just like, I mean, if you watch the guy play, he's just I don't know. He's it's tough for his teammates to be his team. But,
hey, scroll down for me. I want to see the rest of this team too. You got some tight ends on there, probably. I don't know if you can.
Yeah. Well, I got Kittles and Bowers on that team, so they really carried me the whole time. I started them, and except for I always started Kittle in the flex, except when he was hurt that week or two. But Jordan Addison really stepped up the last couple of weeks. I needed that big week from him a couple of weeks ago, and I think he had 39 points, and he outscored the guy I was trying to outpoint to get that Dominator win. Had Justin Jefferson. So watching that game, going back and forth, Jefferson gets a touchdown, Addison gets a touchdown. It was nuts, man. So I mean, but that ultimately that afternoon. When he went off, like that was kind of the last straw where I knew like I was going to take that money. So he was kind of the clinching guy for me that week. Cause some of these other guys, like I spent so much money, cause as for people who don't know, you get $1,000 to play with for free agents. And I think I spent between Tyrone Tracy and Quentin Johnson, I think I spent like $600 on those guys. So, and the funny thing is I barely beat out guys to get them. I only by like, you can laugh at like how much I bid on them, but like if you look at the bidding, I might have beat them out by like $10 on each guy. So those guys were in high demand at the time, and Tracy's kind of fallen down a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm going to play him this week because that's the tough part is Kamara's if he's out. And another guy, Travis Etienne, has been like a big disappointment, but he's going against the Raiders this week. So he actually had a pretty good game against the Jets last week, and I got Bigsby in my other league. In my Beat Vegas Matty league that was in the Las Vegas fantasy championship. So I'll play both of them and hope one. That's kind of what I did is I have one on each team and hope one of them goes off. So I'll probably be rooting for that. I mean, the Raiders barely they were pretty much a no-show in that game on Monday night until the end, and I think they desperately need Aiden O'Connell back because Desmond Ridder might be the worst. He might be the worst quarterback that I've ever seen. So
I mean, who was
what happens there?
I'm drawing a blank. Who played for the there was an injury the other night, and who came in at quarterback that was the worst? Maybe the second worst quarterback I had ever seen. Oh God, there was
Tim Boyle's pretty bad, but
Tim Boyle, there's another
I
one.
I don't think he got in there, but
I'll think of it at one point.
Ritter's definitely. I mean, he almost killed the Raiders by winning that game, but like it got a little nerve-wracking at the end of the game because I had clients who needed the Raiders to cover to move up in the circa million, and I was like watching that, like kind of because hoping the Raiders get like the number 1 pick or number 2 pick next year in the draft because I'm a season ticket holder, and it just the tickets, man, you can't even give them away right now, which is why I'm going to my first game this week. It's like one of the worst games imaginable, but I'm going to go because I can't get rid of the tickets, and one of my buddies really wanted to go. So
there you go.
I don't know. He's the worst though, Ritter. He's very hard to watch.
Sam Howell played the other night.
Sam Howell's pretty bad, but I would say Ritter's like 10 times.
Well, Ritter's worse. Howell was actually pretty decent last year when he.
Yeah, the problem with Sam Howell is he just takes so many sacks. Like he is actually a decent runner, but he can't get out of his own way. So he takes a few steps back, and then like the whole pocket collapse on him. That's kind of how he was with that in Washington last year. He was just he would go off every once in a while because he had good receivers, but then he just has like kind of happy feet. And if he doesn't take off right away running, he loses 10, 15 yards.
He's lost.
I would venture to say Ritter is worse.
So real quick about this team too. Was Olave your second round pick? Because I don't see a second round pick.
No, not on that team. On my other team. So I can only take one Saint per team. So
who was your second round pick on this? I mean, you probably started Amon Ra.
Yeah, I had him, and then man, I'm trying to think who.
There were a lot of injuries. I mean, unless you want maybe because Mixon was more of a fourth rounder.
Yeah, Mixon. I think I got Mixon, and I had Etienne pretty high, so I might have taken him in the second round, which looks terrible now. But I know I think I took like Etienne and
Etienne, Mixon, Kamara, maybe right in a row.
Yeah, like 3 in a row. I might have. Because I honestly don't know like who else was worthy of it.
You might have had an injury. Like there's been so many injuries this year, dude. It
could be. Yeah, I might have dropped somebody that was higher up there.
But yeah, and then the other thing. I mean, I know you kind of fell the 90th, so you're not really sweating it, but that's why I always struggle going into these playoffs, man. With my teams is with two quarterbacks. Right now, you've got you got Stroud, but who's your backup?
So it was the great Kirk Cousins. So
that's right.
So get this. So like I was I think it was when the Texans were on the bye week. I was worried that the Falcons were going to bench Cousins then because he had just thrown, I think, the couple pick sixes, or he had like what do you have, like 5 interceptions or 4 interceptions, something like that. And that one, it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I needed to win that week because that got me some separation because the guy I was battling for first place in the league, he lost that week and I didn't want to lose as well. And I ended up beating out Frankie Taddeo, who's a tremendous fantasy player that week. I beat him by like 7 points, but I had to start Kirk and he didn't get a touchdown pass. He threw for like 350 yards though. So he still got me like 15 points, I think, that week, which was enough, enough. But I was like so worried that I had no free agent money. So I was there's no way I couldn't even put $1 on Michael Penix just in case. And that's why, now I've just got to hope that Stroud plays and they don't rest him in week 17 or whatever. I doubt they will. But
I mean, for this team to make any noise, it's really got to put up a 200.
Yeah, this one's totally running on fumes. I mean, I'll be lucky to
but you got your 10K, dude. You got your 10K.
I did. Yeah, I was able to score the most points and finish first place, going 11-3, which was nice, and I had a 2-game cushion there at the end, which was really nice. But the other league, my Beat Vegas Matty league, which was a lot of my clients were in there. That one was just insane. I started the year 1-5, and then I won 8 in a row to get to 9-5. And then what I had to do was I had to finish in the top 6 because the way the formatting works is that last I think it was week 14. Was that you have to finish in the top 6 to get a win. If you're in the bottom 6, you get a loss. So I didn't have enough points to move on, like if I tied with another guy. And I want to give a shout out to Ryan Russo, who I beat out for the final playoff spot. He was right there with me and he had more points than me, but he ended up finishing in the bottom 6 that week. And I was in the top 6. So I got the win. He got the loss. And what they do is for the top 2 were like tied for first place, basically, with the record and points. And then I finished 3rd, a game ahead of Ryan. And they take for 4th place, they take then the team that had the most points that wasn't the top 3 or whatever, or actually like the 3rd most points, whatever.
Yeah, it was record points. Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew I had to finish in the top 6, and then he had to finish in the bottom 6 for me to have any chance. And I'll tell you something funny about Ryan is that he beat me in week 4 by 0.6 points. So we had that head-to-head going. So when that happened in week 4, that's the most pissed I've ever been about a fantasy loss in my life, because Tony Pollard, I don't know if you remember week 4, but the Titans were playing the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football. And Ryan had Tony Pollard, and they had left him in the game. There was like this bizarre punt or drop kick, punt, whatever, that gave the Titans like tremendous field position. And they were already up like double digits. There was no way they were going to lose the game. There was probably like 2 or 3 minutes left in the game. But the Titans just kept marching down the field, and they left Pollard in. I want to say they won by over 20 points that game, but the Dolphins had no chance to win the game.
Yeah.
And Pollard ended up scoring a touchdown, like a last second bogus touchdown
for no reason.
It was like such bush league bullshit, right?
Well, Ryan's in the chat and he says he remembers. Congrats.
Yeah. It was awful. And I was chatting back with him. I sent Ryan text and I was like, oh my God, this loss is going to kill me. And I was worried it was going to. And and looking back at it too, I'll tell you, Josh Allen, who's been lights out for me in this league ever since, he scored over 100 points for me last 2 weeks. Everyone knows he's been on fire. But he, along with Breece Hall, combined for 14.9 points that week. Yeah. Okay. So that was the week that the Bills got crushed by the Ravens at Baltimore. And then Breece Hall's been up and down all year. He was my first round pick in that league. And it was like it was just crazy because I was like, if Ryan gets in, I even texted him before. I'm like, man, if you get in, you know, best of luck. I'll be rooting for you. And otherwise, like I had to have so many things fall my way to get in. But it was the Beat Vegas Matty League, and it wouldn't be the Beat Vegas Matty League if Vegas Matty didn't make the playoffs.
That's right.
And then I had scored over 209 points last week, and now I'm in first place in our league. I got a little 4-point cushion going into week 16, and I'm 30th overall out of 350 teams for the championship league, which you can win 5K in. So, it's just that team I'm a little bit more excited about because I'm actually going to be going to the game and the Raiders game and get to watch. I'll be rooting for the Jaguars a little bit and Brian Thomas Jr. to go off again.
Oh, what a stud he's been, huh? I mean, he's been the best rookie receiver by a mile.
Yeah. Well, between him and I've got Roma Dunze and Jerry Jeudy on this team. So it's like those receivers, again, like they won't jump out on you, but like Judy's been on fire. I'm worried about the quarterback change because
you should be. I mean, I've got a lot of Judy.
TTR is a Bishop Gorman High School graduate, so he went to high school in Vegas. Roma Dunze also went to high school in Vegas at Bishop Gorman, and those two guys are going to kind of be responsible for my fate down in the next 2 weeks, I think, because. Yeah, I mean, Dunze was terrible on Monday night, but he had so many chances. He had 3 shots in the end zone, I believe. Yep. So he's getting the targets, and he scored 2 touchdowns a couple weeks ago. So I know he can go off. Unfortunately, they're playing the Lions this week, but that's kind of where my everything's going to fall is how the Browns do and how the Bears do, which kind of sucks, but. We'll see what happens, but Josh Allen and Josh Jacobs too have been carrying me in that team. Those were 2 of my top picks. And then I have Sam Laporta and Jonnu Smith as my tight ends in there. So
Laporta had freaking 100 yards in the fourth quarter against the Bills. He did like nothing. That Bills
I know. And he could be big. He could be big against the Bears. So he was, I think people are kind of, you know who my second round pick, I think I took Josh Allen in the second round of that league. I took Breece Hall first and then Josh Allen. And then I want to say I took Laporta in the third round, which is ridiculous, like looking back on it. But if you thought he was going to be like Brock Bowers, which he was basically last year, it wouldn't have been as crazy as a pick. But my picks were a little more outlandish in that league. But I mean, they're kind of peaking at the right time and they're healthy. So hopefully next couple of weeks will be good to me.
That's what you need. You got to be healthy and you got to peak at the right time. Awesome, dude. Well, I'm excited for you. Good luck in these tournaments. I'm right there with you. I got a couple really solid teams in the mid stakes. I got a couple teams. I got a team in like 50-something place in the World Championship. So I need like a 200-point week here, I think, to kind of catch up and compete for the big $150,000 prize. Which
good luck to you, man. I don't think I'll be seeing any, and I'll be happy to finish in the upper half of probably that one.
There you go.
I'm happy with the 10K. I mean, I'm ecstatic, actually. I had no idea that it was going to be real. I mean, I got off to a great start, and then, I was just battling with my client, Matthew King. I'll give him a shout out, too. He's in both of these leagues, and he was the injury bug killed him, man. He was right there with me most of the way, and then, like, injuries. He got so many guys hurt. And, I mean, it happens. It's it's the way these leagues go sometime. But like that's
right.
the thing with Kamara. Like, I had Kendry Miller on my team like on and off like all year, and then I dropped him for someone else, and now I could use him. So that's one of those things you learn to pace yourself, make sure you manage those bye weeks. And I got to tell you too, one of my favorite things about these leagues is you cannot make any trades. So,
right. Oh, for sure.
Because I'll give a shout out to the Boys in the Hood League. I have my buddy Matt Zebula. He runs the league, and he celebrated a birthday yesterday. He's about the only guy I've been able to trade with that I've actually done well. I think I made 9 trades in that league this year, and they all came back to bite me in the ass. So the fact that you can't have trades in here, it's huge because it protects me from myself, and I just ride with the players that I picked and pick up in free agency. And it's a good way to get involved and stay involved and not worry about hurting yourself down the stretch.
For sure. Awesome. So let's break down a couple of these big games this week.
Sure.
We certainly won't go through all of them. We'll just go through a couple of them here. I want to talk about the Thursday night game tomorrow because I do a start sit article for full time every week, and it comes out on Fridays. And so I don't really get to talk about the Thursday game usually in that, but Broncos Chargers -3. Some people think that spread is off. Maybe it should be a pick 'em or whatever, but what are your thoughts on this game? I mean, I like the way that the Broncos offense has been playing the last month or so. Chargers have been banged up. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Chargers are the better team, but it's just it's a must win for them at home. I think the elements will help them a little bit. I mean, again, like losing J.K. Dobbins has been huge because their running game has been hurt, and I do like Vidal. I think he could be a factor if they do get into the playoffs a little bit because his role has been like getting bigger as it goes on. But having Ladd McConkey's like is essential for the Chargers. I mean, you saw they played a little better early on. Their defense just ran into a buzzsaw with the Bucs. I mean, I thought the first half of that game against the Bucs, they looked great.
Right.
And then I texted my buddy Jeremy, who's a big Chargers fan, and I swear to God, as soon as I sent that text to him, they started going downhill, and Baker caught fire. So the Broncos offense is not the Bucs. Let's not confuse it with that. They're nowhere close. It's kind of a tale of two halves if you think about it, because the Broncos got off to a really bad start against the Colts too, and then their defense just took over in the second half. I mean, Nick's kind of took himself out of that Rookie of the Year conversation in that game with the picks, and I just don't. I think that the Chargers defense is two great defenses, really. Broncos defense has been awesome too, but the Chargers defense really needs to kind of control that game. And then, Herbert, I mean, he's the guy too that, I mean, his health is in question a little bit. He's got the ankle injury, and I think it's really going to come down to how he plays, because when he's got the receivers, I mean, Stone Smart coming out of nowhere too. I mean, that guy, man, I wish I had some money left at the end of the year, but he kind of popped in right when like you couldn't make any more pickups in these leagues. So, but he's been outstanding. McConkey's been great. And then Quentin Johnston, who I need to play well. I mean, he needs to come back in and make some catches. He did all right last week, but he's going to get his shots like to make big plays, and he's just got to make them. But I do think the line's like kind of where it should be. It's just, especially with McConkey in there. I mean, if he's really like him and Herbert are going to be the ones who kind of decide that game. I don't think the Broncos are going to go off like offensively or anything like that.
I think it's going to be an ugly game. Neither team knows what they want to do at running back.
Exactly.
It's just ugly. Both defenses I think are really good.
I think we're fortunate that's going to be in LA just because the weather's not going to be a factor. It's not going to be cold or anything like that. So hopefully you'll see a better situation. I mean, better than that Niners game last week in the Rams. That was absolutely brutal. The way that turned out. Just a battle of field goals. that killed a lot of people early on for their playoffs.
Yeah. It killed me. For sure.
We'll see what happens, but I kind of like the Chargers a little in that game. I'm not a huge Bo Nix fan. I know he's played great. I had him I had to bite my lip and take him on one of my teams when he was on fire, and he did well. And I think Cortland Sutton's been one of the most underrated players in fantasy this year as well. He's been great. But again, like I think if the Chargers D can kind of hold him under wraps, he's been really the only guy that's been doing anything catching the ball. Vele was completely disappeared.
Yeah.
And he needs to get involved. I mean, the donut last week, not even no catches, nothing. So he's has to make some plays, because I just don't think they can rely on Sutton to make all the plays for them this week offensively.
Agreed. Sutton scored last week, and he's always a good.
Oh, he's been great. He's been great. He threw up a goose egg one week for me on one of my teams, and you got to have a short memory with this stuff, because these guys will bounce back the next week. Like Jaden Reed, he had a goose egg 1 week for me, and then boom, he played better last week. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Yeah, that's definitely an interesting game, big game. But I think the Chargers are more of a playoff team than the Broncos, and we'll just have to see what happens.
I mean, listen, both teams are just vying for who's going to get scraped by the Bills in the first round. So that's all,
pretty much,
that's all that really matters. All right, Texans Chiefs on Saturday. We got some nice Saturday games this week. Texans at Chiefs. My thing says Texas minus 2.5. I don't know that might have changed.
That's been changed since the since the Mahomes has been practicing, because in the contest lines I was tracking those, and it was 2.5 for the Texans, and then went 2.5 the other way. But again, he isn't healthy. It's going to be more like, can Pacheco run the ball? I don't know. It's and the defenses again are going to have to come up big. I mean, if I were the Chiefs, like, I would rest Mahomes in this game and make sure he's healthier for when they play the Steelers, because I mean, two really tough defenses to have to play against, like, back-to-back weeks. But it just goes to show, like, the sense of urgency with the Bills kind of sneaking up on them.
Yeah, the Bills have Patriots, Jets, Patriots. Like, they're going to go 3.
They're not going to lose another game. They shouldn't have lost the Rams game, really, but they're still in good position. And the Chiefs, that schedule is very tough. That those 2 games back-to-back. It's going to be tough for them. And the Texans, I mean, they won the divisions, but they're playing for seeding. I don't think they want to have to play like the Ravens in the first round, who they're going to play on Christmas. They don't want to have to play that team again. It's going to be all about matchups and how teams want to try to avoid playing the opponents that are already in the playoffs, because we already know most of the playoff teams right now.
Yeah, this is going to be, especially in the AFC. This is going to be an ugly game here. I think both, Texans have a solid defense. Chiefs have an incredible defense. Stroud really hasn't had that good of a year. Like, he hasn't taken really that second step. I mean, I know he loses Diggs, but he's still got Nico. He's still got Tank Dell and Mixon, and he just hasn't been he hasn't, I don't think, taken that step that everyone was
no, he hasn't, because he was really good for me on my world championship team early in the year, like the first month, I would say. Him and Mixon, I had that combo going. And then then he just started losing receivers. He lost Nico, then he lost Diggs, and and then even Mixon missed a couple games there. So I don't know. He just hasn't had that touch that he had last year. The offensive line, you see him running around a lot more this year than he did last year, and it's been more the defense that has had to step up. I mean, to help carry the team, and it might have to be that way in the playoffs. And in this game too, I would look for a low-scoring game. Mixon's banged up a little bit too, so we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, because it is a huge game, really, for both teams.
It is.
I was counting it as a Chiefs loss until I saw Mahomes was practicing, and then it's like, it's the line's right where it should be, I think. Just because the Chiefs they've been winning by the skin of their pants for the most part, except for that Browns game last week, and then Mahomes gets hurt at the end, and his status is just going to be, you want him to be as close to 100% in the playoffs as possible. So they're going to have to decide kind of if he gets nicked up early in the game, if they go to Carson Wentz or not. It's going to be interesting.
And Wentz isn't a terrible backup, obviously. Jerry asked Denver or Philly defense this week. I would probably go with the Denver defense playing against the
Denver. Who? Or Philly?
Or Philly. Yeah, Philly's at Washington, and Washington doesn't really. So when I'm looking at defenses for fantasy, at least, I'm looking for turnovers, and I'm looking for like defensive line versus offensive line, like how that looks, and like because when you disrupt the O-line, you disrupt the quarterback, that leads to turnovers and sacks, all that type of stuff. So I mean, they're very, very close, but I think I lead Broncos in that game over the Eagles.
I think so too. I think Denver's got the better defense, but the Commanders just having to stop the Eagles, that's going to be a tall task.
You're right, for sure. All right, next Saturday game, another great one, another AFC showdown. Steelers at Ravens. Yeah. This game's going to be 16-14. Every Ravens Steelers
they always are, pretty much. Well, let's not. Yeah, it's it's another big game too, because it's a divisional game. I think the Ravens still have a slight chance to win the division, but they got to win out and they got to beat
the Ravens. Is it really -6.5 for the Ravens?
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
it's at Baltimore though, right?
Yeah, but I'm still surprised. Like these games are always within 3 points, and the Ravens have lost.
I think it's just because of Pickens. Is Pickens going to play or no?
I haven't heard yet. It doesn't look good. It doesn't.
Their offense is completely different when you can't count on Harris and to run the ball against that defense. I think that's what makes it one dimension. They're kind of one dimensional. Is if you have that one receiver that you're relying heavily on and that he's not healthy, just like McConkey with the Chargers. If you saw what they were without him, and Pickens, that Steelers offense has not been the same without him. So that is a huge loss. If he's been able to play, because you just can't run the ball against the Ravens.
And that's another injury. Man, what is up? You're in you talk to the people in the streets, the NFL street. What is up with these Friday hamstring injuries? I mean, I feel like it's Devonta Smith. Like these guys just come up on Fridays, just hamstring doubtful. I think it wasn't Drake London, but it's just, I feel like every other week a superstar gets an injury to a muscle on a Friday. Like, what are they doing on Fridays?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's maybe if they're not being with full disclosure about what their injury is the first couple of days, and they have those limited practices, and then all of a sudden on Friday they have to reveal like what's really going on. Maybe. I mean, that could be part of it too. It's just it does seem strange because I this season more than any other, the Friday injuries that all of a sudden pop up. It's that's why you really got to keep an eye on the guys who practice limited leading up to that, because it seems like something is always up, and then it's no surprise if they're all of a sudden they're out because they haven't fully practiced, and you just don't know who to trust on all the information. The injury reports only go so far. They'll tell you who's practicing and who's not, but you don't 100% know why. Like they can just label whatever injury they want, without being 100% accurate with that stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, I'm starting for fantasy. I'm starting all my Ravens. The Steelers. I mean, if you could get away from the Steelers running backs, I definitely would. And you don't want to start. I mean, there's no receiver worth starting. Freiermuth's had a good couple of weeks. Since Pickens has gone down, so Freiermuth, I would certainly look at getting into a lineup if you need something. But that's about it. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see. It's
a much bigger game for the Ravens. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they want to try to be in the mix and try to win the division.
Win that division, right?
So, and they got and then they got to play the Texans on Christmas Day. So that's another tough game. I mean, you can't take any game for granted, really, unless you're the Bills and you get to play the Patriots twice, right?
Right, exactly. All right, let's skip ahead here. Eagles, Commanders Sunday. 1 o'clock. We'll do a couple more of the bigger games here. This should be a fun one. This should be hopefully a shootout we get here. I know the Eagles defense has been really good, but I think when you have a mobile quarterback like Jaden Daniels, he just has the ability. I saw a stat last week, like over 50% of their drives have ended in touchdowns or field goals, which is one of the highest ever. Every other team. Yeah.
That's why he's going to be a rookie of the year too. He hasn't been like as good as he was that first like 6 or 7 weeks, but I mean, he's still been the best rookie quarterback out there. Let's not. And I'm a Bears fan at heart, so I mean, it's been hard for me to watch Caleb get clobbered every week. And I really thought going into the year he was set up the best, but I also said it depends on the offensive line, and their offensive line's been brutal. But Jaden Daniels was put in a good situation with good receiver. He's got one of the best receivers in the league, and solid running game. So and a great offensive line. So that's been helpful for him. And they started off really good against the Eagles in the first meeting, and then they just kind of got overpowered. I think the Eagles, I want to say that was almost like the big, like when you really saw the Eagles as becoming a Super Bowl contender again was after that game, because they turned on a button and they just said, we're not messing around anymore. They won that game. And I feel like they've been on a roll ever since.
They have been on a roll. And I do think I'm hoping it's high scoring, but I do think they're going to, they're -3.5. I think they're going to probably run away with this game. I mean, their defense is it's so good against the run, and the Commanders really need to run the ball to kind of set up the pass. And Vic Fangio has done really well against Russia.
He's one of the best coordinators, defensive coordinators of all time. I mean, he's been amazing. When I saw that they got him, I was like, because their defense was so bad last year, I knew that they would be better, like instantly, or not instantly, I shouldn't say. It normally takes a little time to get used to it, but drafting those two corners early in the draft, and that was really their weakness, and they got that tough D line. I mean, they're going to be tough, man. It's going to be they're going to give the Lions, I think, all they can handle in the NFC this year.
For sure. All right. Niners at Dolphins. This is a game that we would have been so excited about earlier in the year, right? But shootout potential at Miami. You don't really got to worry about weather. But just the Niners have not been able to figure it out over the last month. You know, they ran into a snowstorm in Buffalo. I was at that game. A rainstorm it rains for 3 hours a year in San Francisco, and it rained those 3 hours during the game. Just a disaster. I would love a shootout here, but you know, I don't think we're going to get one. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, that's tough too, because it's just like how motivated the Niners are. Basically have no chance to make. They're done. Okay, so you got a team that like the Dolphins that still has something to play for, and they turned in a dud last week against Houston, and then you've got the Niners who are basically dialed out. I mean, I think that whole way the game ended last week is going to carry over, and I mean I think they'll try to stay in the game, but I just don't know if I think Purdy's not healthy either. He's kind of gutting it out too, and it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Grendo, I mean, is he 100% healthy? We didn't know if he was going to play last Thursday, and he actually did okay.
He did fine, yeah.
It just seems like those running backs are doomed. Like every game, you got to wonder if they're going to finish the game they start. So it'll be interesting to see. But I mean, I think the Dolphins should be able to win that game. It's like, but these are games like Mike McDaniels. Like he's so familiar with the Niners and their offense that they run, and you know, this is a game that he should win. It's like kind of the teacher against the pupil type game, and it means a lot more to him. So he's got the healthier team. He should win this game.
For sure.
I think they will.
Yeah. And so always West. I don't mean it's more for 1 o'clock games, but West Coast, East Coast trips, man, those aren't fun.
Yeah, it's tough, for sure.
Whether it's 1 or 4. All right, cool. Real quick before we go, we got a question here from Jared. This is a cool kind of question to think about. Looking forward to next year, because a lot of my teams are dead, so I'm looking forward to next year. But where do we think Puka will get drafted in fantasy football next season? I mean, off the top of my head, I mean, he's going to be a first round pick for sure. It's just how. I mean, he was almost a first round pick this year. Sometimes he was back end of the first. And I know he's been injured, but when he hasn't, he's looked sensational. Stafford loves him. Cooper Kupp kind of looks like he's on his last leg, and the Kupp had 0 fantasy points in the last week. And
he's kind of taken over as that alpha, the top receiver in the offense. I think a lot of it depends on Stafford, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know how much more that guy's got left either, and it's just the injuries. He plays like that tough position where he's going over the middle, and like he takes a beating. So like I think like maybe early second round. Maybe late first round, but like you just always got to worry about injuries with him because he has an injury history. And when he's in there, he's phenomenal. But when he's not, you know, you don't want him sitting on your bench for like 4 or 5 weeks when you need him.
I mean, I think his injuries have been a little, I don't want to say overblown. I don't know. I feel like, it's kind of, but you know, you have to, in these tournaments, right, Matty, you're playing for $150,000. You're playing for those guys that can score 30 points a week at the end. And there aren't many guys that can do that. I mean, I'm thinking,
right when they're healthy. That's
looking at so I'm thinking next year, FFWC is very receiver heavy. So you'll get like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson up there for sure. CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra. There's 5 guys there. Maybe Tyreek Hill. You know, maybe Nico Collins gets up in there. Maybe Garrett Wilson. I mean, you'll get Bijan, you get a running back or 2. But I think for sure you'll find him probably at pick 9, pick 10, pick 8. I think next year I might be forgetting.
It seems a little high, but you never know. It just depends. I mean, you got to think about guys like Saquon who didn't go necessarily in the first round this year, which is insane to think about now. But I know we had
Breece Hall maybe finds his way back up there again.
Yep. Well, we had in my Beat Vegas Matty league, Alex White. She picked she led the league like the whole time. She's a big sports handicapper here in Vegas. She took Jamar Chase with her first round pick and Saquon with her second round pick, which like now you would just think that's impossible. There's no way in hell that would happen. And but yeah, that's she pretty much rode those two guys the whole season. And now it's like, Jamar's just been unbelievable. Like he's the big regret. Like I took Tyreek Hill over him in the league, I think. And just things that you would think like, no way. But a lot of it's just the quarterback, man. If Burrow's healthy, if Burrow and Chase are together, I mean, it's just like automatic. Like,
it's funny. You're having a great year when last week Jamar Chase scored like 18 fantasy points. My buddy was bitching,
and it was a down week.
Yeah, it was a down. He's like, oh, and then Jamar Chase scored 18. I'm like, what?
Right. He didn't score a touchdown. What? Yeah, right, I know. Same with Jefferson too. I mean, Jefferson's up there. He has he went like on a touchdown drought there for a little bit, but he's been made up for it lately, and he's another one. Like you gotta make sure the quarterback's there and healthy. Like, and that's my only concern I would have about Puka is like if Stafford retires, like he's not gonna play forever. And like, are the Rams? Right. Who knows what's gonna happen with McVay? Like, he's thought about retiring at times. Both those guys. You saw Donald retire recently, and like, I mean, it just depends on if he comes out there again. And Stafford gets hurt a lot too. He's kind of held up this year, but
that's what people forget about too, even myself. Like receivers generally have been going higher the last couple of years because running backs get hurt more than receivers statistically.
They do. Absolutely. You got to have that handcuff for the running back just in case. But receiver, it's not so much. You rarely have a team where you want to take two receivers from the same team. I did it in one league, and it was, it didn't really work. I ended up trying to trade those guys away once I knew which one was going to be the dominant one. It turned out that, it was what I thought, but I kind of drafted him thinking, hey, if so-and-so gets hurt, I have this guy and he'll step up as the number one receiver and stuff like that. And like Mooney and Drake London, a big example. Both those guys were great. I drafted London, and then I ended up trading for Mooney just to have him around. And then, but it's rare to do something like that. Some guys don't want to go all in on that. And then,
and then the thing about the receivers, though, is they get hurt less, except for this year. Receivers have gotten hurt more than usual. But if their quarterback gets hurt, they're also now hurt.
No, exactly.
Look at
that's why you can talk about Garrett Wilson. I mean, Rodgers is not going to be there next year, and you don't know who the hell is going to be the quarterback for the Jets. So I know Scott's a big Jet fan, and I don't know who he's rooting for them to draft, but I mean, they could have somebody completely different.
And he probably wants Sam Darnold back. That's probably who he wants.
Probably right. That's a funny. It would be a nice reunion, right? But there's no way Rodgers just needs to get the hell out of the NFL. He's done. He's riding out his documentary and stuff like that, trying to play well for people to watch it. And I have no interest in watching anything about that guy anymore.
I think we all know pretty much all we need to know for sure
exactly
about him. So, Matty, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Team looks really good. I'm excited for you. It'll be fun. Hopefully we'll be able to meet up next year in Vegas, man, and hang out.
Absolutely. You got to get in these contests. And anybody who's out there listening that wants to get into the Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor contest, $1,000 entry fee per entry, and tons of money on the line. They had $16 million, what was it? 14 and $20 million guaranteed between the two contests. I shouldn't say guaranteed, but the pot for the Survivor was guaranteed at 10 million, and they ended up getting 14 million. So they had $16 million guaranteed, and then the prize money ends up being over 20 million between the two contests. So because it's based on the entry fees, so they put it all back in. It's 100% payback. So come see me or my partner Tony. We'll be doing signups all summer long. Footballcontest.com is the website, so go there. You can check out information on the different contests that we proxy for, and then reach out via email or on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. We're at Football Contest, and I'm at Vegas_Matty on there as well.
Perfect. Footballcontest.com. I'll definitely going to get linked up with you next year. Congrats to Ryan Russo. One of your buddies was the Maui winner tonight. He was the Maui
awesome. Good for him. He deserves it.
There you go, Ryan. That's right. So everyone's winning tonight. Everyone's winning. That's right. Awesome, Matty. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week, and everybody good luck.
Thank you.
See you guys.